Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with my friend Krista Caldwell from PagerDuty. She's also the 2024 FEM Global Mobility Professional of the Year. Krista, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you, and I really enjoyed connecting with you here in Dallas a few months ago when you were kind of here for FEM and you got to receive that amazing honor being the Global Mobility Professional of the Year. What was that like?
It was an amazing feeling. I've been in mobility for a really long time. And so, we always work hard to getting toward these different goals. And I'd been nominated in the past, didn't win. And so, just continued to work hard. And just the nomination itself was really exciting. And then to win, it was just a huge honor. And, personally, it's a really awesome way for me to be recognized for a lot of the work that I've done over the last few years. So it felt really great. And it was a great accomplishment for myself, as well as just my company and all that we've done in the last year.
Well, I got to ask you, did you know you were going to win?
No, not at all.
No? Okay. So you're like
Nope.
in there and you're sweating it just like everybody
Yeah.
else is
Yep,
sweating it.
absolutely. Yeah, complete surprise, which is super exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. Really cool. Get in the comments, everybody. Welcome Krista to the show. I want to know who in the world, where in the world you are, who you are, rep your company. We got people coming in here. Stacy, what's up? Patrick, Stacy in the D. Patrick, what's up, Patrick? Where are you, Krista?
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Nice.
Yes.
Very cool. And look, we got Rob Zeitz coming in from Air Inc. in Cambridge, Wicked Smart. Sharon, two of my favorite peeps. Is that an
Yes.
acronym? Let's see here. Love you, Sharon. Jana saying, Happy Tuesday. So excited to have you. Yes, Jana, thanks for making this happen. Too. Big shout out to Jana
Yes,
for making
absolutely.
this happen. And I got to ask you, I don't know what pager duty is. I'm so sorry. I should have. But can you tell us real quick, what is pager duty?
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's a common question. So PagerDuty is a tech company. We're based out of San Francisco, but operate in a lot of different countries. And we provide tech solutions for our customers to help streamline operations, deal with incident response and automation so that they can take the focus off of IT and focus on delivery to their own customers. So lots of technology. That's a very simple explanation. I could probably not dive
Well,
into all the
yeah,
intricacies.
no, we got it. I love
Yeah,
it.
for our audience,
Awesome.
it's really good.
Well, today we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about being mindful and intentional and taking pauses. I mean, this is something I need help with. So when I first kind of got to talk to Krista at FEM earlier this year, and you were leading, you were doing an activity that you were actually leading, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah, so I had a presentation and it was centered around using mindfulness in our global mobility programs. And so the approach was looking at a few different areas. One was around just our presence, our behavior, our attitudes, how we're approaching our work, and how we can maybe take that moment to be a little bit more mindful. Because I think we can all agree in mobility, we move fast, we make decisions quickly, there's pressure on us from a number of different directions. And so sometimes we're not in a position where we can really be mindful. We're reactive or responsive. And so a lot of it was centered around, taking a moment to give yourself that presence. And then we talked a little bit about focusing on goals and the direction we want to go, which kind of ties into what we're going to talk about as far as goal setting and reevaluating, reassessing. And then the last thing was about like overcoming obstacles. What can we do to reframe obstacles to make sure that they're not getting in our way and that we can overcome them? And then around decision making, whether we are decision makers or influencing decisions, actions we can take to help move the needle further when we need decisions made.
Well, and I kind of heard these kind of thoughts that you were having, these ideas, and I thought that this time of year would be really good. I mean, we're coming to, the end of, we're kind of Q3, we're in Q3, and it's like, okay, here comes Q4, and this is like kind of, historically when we start doing budgets, and budgets are usually plans for next year, and so we're taking stock and we're looking forward. And I thought that some of this goal setting kind of learnings that you have to share would be really important. But I want to pause that, to use the word pause, and I want to talk about this idea of a pause.
Yeah.
Because this is something I do not do. I don't have a pause button. I just run out of power and die until I'm charged back up and then I
Yep.
go again. So tell me about this pause thing because it's a little antithetical to my entrepreneurial hustle mindset.
Yeah, and it's a common thing that I don't think people always think about. And so in my yoga teacher training, I'm also a yoga teacher on the side. And so one of the things that we learned about was the cycle of different things that happen. So a cycle can be a long cycle, it can be a short cycle. But we talk about every cycle has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But really, there's a four part. The fourth part is a pause. And so we talk about how can we be mindful that we go through that beginning, middle, and end, but leave space for the pause. And so what that means is, taking the time at the end of a call to let your mind collect, gather all the thoughts of what you had on this call before you jump into the next one. Or if you're working on a project, get to the point where you have that moment to stop before you move on to the next one. Because I think it's very common, especially now that we're working remotely, is to have one call after the next after the next. And so we're not even pausing to catch our breath
Yes.
or step away from our computers. And so, sometimes I think people are like, oh my gosh, a pause. I don't have time for that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be lengthy. It
I'm
can
in
be,
back to backs. I don't
yeah,
got time for a pause. Let
yeah.
me ask the audience real quick because everybody's out there right now. Do you take a pause? How do you pause? I mean, is it something that you schedule? Do you do these pauses throughout the day? Get in the comments here if you're in the audience. Do you pause? And if so, how? How do you pause? Chris, I'm going to ask you, how do you pause? I mean, we're all so busy.
Yeah, so I do try to schedule, scheduled breaks throughout the day where I can take a few minutes, step away from my desk, whether that's just going upstairs or stepping outside, taking a 5-minute walk, getting the mail, anything simple like that. I know when people have dogs, it's easy. They're like, well, I have to take my dog for a walk, so it's
Sure.
natural. But one of the things that I like to recommend, a lot of people say, end your meeting early. So if you're scheduled for 30 minutes, maybe change it to 25, or for an hour, change it to 50 or 55. The problem with that is almost every time I see that happening, the meeting still goes for the full hour or the full half hour. So
Yes.
one of the recommendations I make to others is start your meeting 5 minutes after the hour. So instead of starting at
Yes.
10, start at 10:05, because I can guarantee you no one's going to start 5 minutes early, but they'll certainly go to the end of the hour. So it's just a way to kind of reframe finding room for that little pause. So, if that's a 5 minute, 10 minute, and so, it'll maybe make your calendar look a little crazy, but it gives you a little bit of a buffer there before you jump into the next activity.
Yeah, no, because if you have a hard stop, then you can get off of it. But if you don't have it,
Mm-hmm.
then you're just going to keep flowing. How long does a pause need to be? Is 5 minutes enough, or do we really need like 10 or 15?
No, it really is. I mean, I think even a couple of minutes is good. And it kind of depends on what you're going from and going to for the next event, but just giving your mind a moment or two to settle. So even if it's just a minute or two, I think that there's value in that because you're just giving yourself a chance to maybe catch your breath. There is some like breathing exercises you can do if you're coming from a stressful situation and
All
need
right,
to calm
tell
down for
me.
the next
I've been
one.
in 3 back-to-back meetings coming into this right now. What do I need to do to kind of like relax myself?
So one of the breathing techniques that I recommend is called box breathing. So it's where you
Okay.
essentially inhale for a count of 4, you pause for a count of 4, holding your breath, exhale for a count of 4, pause,
Okay,
and
okay.
then
We're gonna do this right now. We're gonna do this right now. So get it with me in the comments, okay? If you're watching right now, I want you to. We're gonna do one box breathing cycle. Would you call it a cycle?
yep.
We're gonna do that together.
All right.
All right,
Okay. Ready?
coach me.
Okay. So go ahead and inhale for the count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold your breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And so that's just one cycle. You kind of get the hold at the top and the hold at the bottom. And it really helps to kind of regulate your nervous system, bring your nerves down, give you some calm. And you can do 1 round, you can do 5 rounds, but it really does help kind of like calm your temperament down. So I think it's a great thing to do.
So I love that. I felt instantly better. Would you normally do more than one set of that, or
Yeah, I would say usually if you can do like 4 to 5 sets, then it just gives you like a nice calming, because one set obviously is great anytime you can do that. But if you can do it for like closer to a minute or even 30 seconds, then I think that that's a way to just like give you a little bit more prolonged settling.
so when I was doing that, I noticed a couple things. One, I noticed that I need to probably work on my I need to work on my aerobic, but two, I noticed that the the holding my breath part was really
Hmm.
key.
Hmm.
I always, heard, oh, just breathe, right? Well, now you're like hyperventilating. You need
Yeah,
to like the
exactly.
hold,
Yeah.
and I've never done the hold with no breath at the end.
Yeah, and one of the things that it does too is it takes you out of your mind. So our minds are constantly busy, they're constantly swirling. We're always thinking about all the things. And so when you're consciously counting the time for each cycle of that 4-part series, you're focused on your breath, you're not focused on your thoughts. And so it also gives your brain like a little mini break.
Okay, okay. Hey, people were telling me my mic was low. Is my mic better now? Let me know in the comments. Is it better now? Can you hear me now? Okay, let me know, y'all. They're telling me my mic is low. Let me try to adjust this real quick. How is
Okay.
that? Test, test, test. Is that better? Let me know, y'all. Here we go. All right. Try to be there for y'all. Let me know. Test, test, test.
Yeah,
Get
that
in there.
sounds a little bit better.
It sounds better? Okay. Thank you, Adrian, out there. Let's see. Rob saying, I love this idea of starting at 5 after the hour. Yeah, we do our team meetings. We start our team meetings at 8:08 in the morning, because that offers us, an idea to kind of get in the office, get our coffee, and then pause.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it kind of like rewires your brain as well. And I think one of the things, my son's starting to drive. So one of the things that we noticed is in some parking lots, the speed limit will be like 17 or 14 and a half or something that's very odd. And so I was telling him the reason that it's like that is because it's catching your attention and is making you pay attention so that now you are conscious of your speed versus just seeing it 20 like you always see. And so similar thing, like, oh, 808, that's kind of weird. And it just turns on something different. So you can start thinking differently and give yourself, oh, okay, I don't have to rush to be there by 8. I can grab my coffee and I can come to the
yeah.
to meet prepared.
Well, and I also told my people like 8 a.m. is an early start already.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna start a meeting at 8 o'clock, that means you need to be in the office at like 7:50 or 7:55,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's just barbaric. So
Yeah.
we're just not going to do that. So 8:08 it is, and we feel pretty accomplished when we're doing those. So we're good. Rob Zeiss says box breathing fits in well with moving.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Rob. I love Rob for the puns and the dad jokes. Yeah, we're gonna get to that too here in a minute. Ritu says, did a team exercise called pause because, and each team member pauses for a different reason, but there's a common purpose in sharing that. Huh? Have you heard of this?
Not necessarily, but I think it's a great point. And I think we all have different reasons that we need to pause and different things that maybe are stressing us out. And maybe we've got personal things that are happening that are causing us to be distracted. And so that's maybe the reason we need to pause, or maybe we've just gotten pressure from a manager or from someone in our own, in our personal or our work life. And that's causing stress. So I think that there's just a number of reasons. So any reason is a valid reason for taking that pause.
How did you get turned on to this idea about pausing? Like, where did this like really come from for you? And like from a professional standpoint, where you felt like, oh, I need to now share this with my mobility friends.
Yeah, the concept came from the yoga training. And so when I was thinking about the presentation, which Rob helped me with for FEM, we were kind of just talking about the different things and themes that we can take from yoga and bring into mobility. And so as we built the presentation and worked out the topic, he and I both really like honed in on this pause idea and the fact that we just don't have time a lot of time to pause, and we're not intentional about that. And there's a lot of intentionality that comes into the work that we do, but we also have to be intentional about ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And so that lens of self-reflection and of looking at how we're feeling, what we're doing, and how we can make sure and take care of ourselves is where we really decided that the pause was key. And we recognize that, like you said, most of us don't take a pause. We don't stop. We just keep going and going and going, and we get burnt out and we get stressed out. And it's like at the end of the day, we have to take care of ourselves. And so that's kind of where it came full circle. And I think the more we think about it, anyone and everyone can value from taking pauses throughout their day, no matter what their job is, no matter what industry they're in. So.
Yeah, I love it. And shout out to Rob. I saw Rob was doing the yoga there too by the pool.
He did, yes.
You had a yoga class going to FEM. Is this something that you want to start taking on the road, kind of incorporating at all the different kind of councils and stuff that you visit?
I would love to. Yes, I would love to incorporate it as much as I can, because I think yoga is something that there's a lot of misconceptions about it and assumptions. And so bringing it to people who maybe haven't done it before is really great. It opens their minds a little bit. And then giving those who practice the opportunity to do it when you're at a work conference, especially you're busy, up early, up late. And so it's just a moment to step aside. And I know Claire from FEM participated, and she said, I woke up and I was stressed and I just thought I shouldn't go. I have so much to do. We have to get ready for the day. But she paused and she made the decision. She came to class and she said she felt so much better for it, was glad she did it. And we're hoping to kind of start to incorporate it every year for the conference.
Isn't that funny? We always feel like we never have enough time.
Yeah.
Why does everyone feel like they don't have enough time?
No. Yeah, I think we put so much on our plates, and a lot of us, I think, adverse to saying no and to having those boundaries. And so I think it's kind of an ongoing exercise that we have to do with creating our own boundaries, being willing to say no, accepting the things you want, and turning down some things. And, I think also it's just a business pressure that we get. And so it's something we are, I think, always going to have to navigate, but we definitely, I know I do overschedule myself. I've got 2 kids. So now I'm deep into football season and running around. And so it's hard to stop. And people ask me why I do yoga and teach yoga at 5:30 in the morning. And it's because that's the only time that I can. Thankfully, I'm a morning person, but that's when I can. That's my time because they're not awake yet.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think about the ways that people find the time to do the things that they do, and we all feel like we don't have enough time. And yet, if I were to look on my phone and see how much screen time I had this week, because my phone tells me every week, and it's an obscene amount of screen time.
Yeah.
And yes, some of that's on LinkedIn, or some of that's email or work, you could quote unquote say, but it's pretty absurd, honestly. And a lot of it's Instagram, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
So it's
there's all these different things. And one of the things, I took my son to the pediatrician, and they were recommending, finding ways to build in more workouts throughout the day. And so I really liked the idea of what the doctor was saying. And he was saying, especially for kids, what's your favorite thing to do? Play video games. Okay, great. So when you're playing a video game, every time your character dies, do 10 push-ups, do 10 squats, do 10 jumping jacks, something. And then that way you're building in these little spurts of exercise throughout whatever duration that you're doing a different activity. And he said, by the end of the day, you may do 200 squats, but you would never do 200 squats in one standing. So I think, even for us, every time your boss pings you, respond, and then, stand up, walk in place, go climb up and down the stairs. I mean, there's little things that we can start to build.
You realize my company is watching this right now, right? So now I'm going to tell them, not only am I going to annoy you with emails, now you have to do push-ups when I email you. This is not better. This is not helping their stress level right now. You understand that, Krista? Stacy checking in with us says, I try really hard to pause, but need to get better at it. Even if I just get up from my desk and look out the window of my office, I feel so much better after. 100%. One of the best days I ever had at work, Krista, was the day I left my laptop at home by accident. And this happens actually more often than I'd like to admit. I'll leave my backpack at home. A lot of times I leave my laptop in the office, so I don't think to get it. So when I bring it home, sometimes I leave it at home. And I left it at home, and it was I discovered it was missing about 9 a.m., pretty quickly, right? And I'm oh crap, do I go home? Do I come back? And I'm well, let me just see what happens if I don't. And I ended up just going around and spending time with everybody in the office. And I was at a movie company when the first time this happened. I took a walk around the warehouse. I met with the ops manager. I talked to the movers. I talked to the salespeople. I talked to the customer service people. I talked to the finance people. I talked to my boss. I talked to the other boss. And it felt like such a great day. I did some LinkedIn stuff on my phone, but it felt like such a great day not having, because what do? Normally we just go and sit in front of the computer and wait for somebody to send us a message.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yep.
It's it's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah, and I think when we step away from the technology, it gives us the ability to be more present with each other and with ourselves, even with our own thoughts. Because we sit at our computer and we're just constantly going, but when you can step away, you have the chance to refocus your brain and again meet with different people, or if you're at home, take a little walk, get outside. There's so many things I think we can do when we step away from the tech.
100%. We got people checking in. Get in the comments. I want to know what you think. We're also going to talk about goal setting for the year and how Krista goes about goal setting. Let's see here. Rob says the 40 minutes spent doing yoga that morning made my next 4+ hours at the event so much more energized and productive. It was a great investment of time. Oh, that's a great resounding endorsement.
Yes, glad to hear that.
Brittany says, that is a great idea. I'm going to share that with my sister for my nieces and nephews about the video games, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely going to share that with my son. My son, he gets killed a lot in video games. He needs he needs a chance for that. Dave says, I can do 1 push-up, but we'll work on that. Let's get to 10 by December.
Yes.
Daisy, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to send you more and more messages, and we're going to build that muscle up, okay?
Yes. Get strong together.
Yeah, it's awful. Oh, I got to send one too when I send a message. Imagine that in order to send an email, you had to do a push-up. Emails would go way down.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah. And everybody you copied on it, that's one more push-up.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about goal setting, because here we are, right? People are thinking about budgets and everything. Talk to me about goal setting and how you go about it.
Yeah, so I think, with each company, there's a little bit of a different mindset around goal setting and then the timing around goal setting and how it's done. So I have been at companies where it was kind of a tick the box exercise. So at the beginning of the year, we put in our goals, and then we just kind of ignore them for the rest of the year. And then we scramble in the last quarter, like, oh my goodness, we have to now wrap up all of our goals and put in all of our assessments, and did we accomplish them? And so I think it's not as effective of an exercise as when you're reevaluating, reassessing throughout the year. So the company that I'm at now, we do quarterly reviews. And so sometimes people think like, oh my gosh, that's so much work to have to go in and do a quarterly assessment, but it's a much more condensed version than you would get in an annual review. But what it does is it gives you the opportunity to just reflect on the past 3 months. So you have a shorter window at which you're looking at the performance, the activities, what you completed. So that really helps to hone in on specific activities. Then what happens in the last quarter is you've gotten 3 quarterly reviews to then help you build your final review. So you're not trying to rack your brain for what happened 9 months ago, because you've already got that level of detail. So that's been really good and helpful. And then I think what's important too in mobility is reassessing and readjusting your goals throughout the year. I think when we set our goals at the beginning of the cycle, it's not always true to realize those and see those through to the end. And not because we don't want to or because we can't, but we know that there's so many different things that come at mobility. And so we may have this linear path that we're expecting to take throughout the year. And then we realize like we're bouncing all over the place based upon business needs, industry needs, what's happening in the world. And so I think it's important at each quarterly point to look at those goals that you set and say, okay, is this actually something I can accomplish in the next quarter and the next 2 quarters, or do I need to make adjustments? And I think it's okay to make adjustments, because where we're at the beginning of the year is going to be different than where we're at the end of the year. And so having the ability to make some changes, I think, is important. And then one thing that I do that's helped a lot is as I complete projects, as I complete tasks, if I get any feedback, any kind of kudos, any kind of recognition from peers, I try to capture those, whether it's a screenshot or a PDF, and just put them into a folder. And then at the end of that quarter, when I'm ready to do my review, I go back and see if there was anything that was valuable that I can add into the review, because that's one thing I think managers don't always see. They don't see the feedback. They don't see the recognition that you're getting. And so it's a good idea to highlight those things to your manager so that they really understand the value that you're bringing to the business.
Now, I love, so many things you said there that I love, and I will touch maybe on the frequency and the cadence of the goal setting and everything, and revisiting that, because I think that's interesting. But one thing you said there, I just want to highlight that. You take the kudos you're getting and you compile them so that you can then use them for your reviews and such. Mm-hmm. I love that. Why do you think more people don't do that?
I think sometimes there's a hesitation because some people think it's maybe being showy or a bit arrogant, like, look at all the recognition I received. But most people don't see that. A lot of times your manager doesn't actually have any visibility to that. And so it's really just a way to boost your own presence and for them to see the value that you're bringing to others, because they're not doing your day-to-day job. If they were, then you wouldn't be there. And so they want to know how well you're doing. They want to know how the impact that you're having. And so I think most managers love to see that kind of stuff because it makes them probably feel good about having a strong employee who is doing well and who is really helping others.
Well, a lot of times, yeah. And a lot of times your manager doesn't even really know how well you're doing. I mean, they have an idea, right? Yeah. But they don't have the whole picture because you don't often serve your manager. You often serve the organization, right? So your internal customers and stakeholders, and the manager only knows what they know of your work product. So I love that idea, and I love that you do that. I think that I say sometimes you got to toot your own horn, right? If you don't, nobody's going to toot it for you. You got to toot it, right? And you have to be your own best advocate, and you have to promote yourself before someone else is going to promote you. And I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it can come across as arrogant and brash, and some people say, well, I shouldn't have to do that. My work should speak for itself, or my manager should take an active enough interest in my work to know how I'm doing. And yeah, maybe, but at the same time, if you don't get promoted, I mean, who does that affect?
Yeah.
So sometimes
they can't have that level of visibility over everything that you do every day, because most likely they're managing a team of people and they also have a job of their own. And so I think from what I have seen, most managers appreciate when you point those things out because they want to hear them. They want to know that you're doing well.
Yeah, I got a question for everybody watching. How have you been an advocate for yourself? How do you, compile that feedback, or what do you do to make sure that everyone in the organization knows the value that you bring? Has anyone had a tip or a trick or something that they've done in the past? I'm really curious. While people are getting in the comments, put that in the comments. I'm really curious. I think it's an awesome side of crowdsource this. But Krista, did you tell your manager that you won this prestigious award?
Absolutely. I texted her from the event to let her know because she was anxiously awaiting, her response to see if I did. So yeah.
So now does that go like in your quarterly and annual review?
It does. Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. So you're going to get a big promotion, Krista?
I hope so.
Yeah,
working
that's
for
awesome.
one. But one thing too, I think that's important, and I know not every company has mechanisms to get formal feedback, but one of the things that I think is also really important is seeking feedback from others that you work with. And so in mobility, we work with a whole spectrum of people, whether that's internal or external. So if there's not a formal way for you to collect feedback, you can do something as simple as creating a Google form, or really just sending an email with a few questions. If you worked on a special project, or if you helped an employee through a mobilization, or supported an immigration case, there's ways that you can get feedback. I also like to get feedback from HR business partners or people operations or managers, because we can't improve if we don't know where we may have gaps. And I think sometimes people tend to just be positive with their feedback, but the constructive feedback is what's going to help us. And so taking that moment again to pause, seek some feedback on a specific point, or just in general over the last 3 months and all the times that we've interacted together. Can you please give me feedback on, are there areas where things have gone really well? Are there areas where maybe we could have done things better? And in giving people that opportunity, one, I think helps build a relationship, but then two, I think it also gives you something more to put into your review, as well as things to then look forward to improving for the next quarter.
Yeah, feedback is, I had a boss that said feedback is a gift. And I thought about that, and every time she said that, I was about to hear some really crappy feedback. Yeah. She's about to tell me something about myself that I didn't want to hear. And I always said, she would always say feedback is a gift. And I was like, yeah, the kind that you want to return at Christmas, the kind you hope, it's like socks, right? It's right. Feedback is like really crappy gift. But it's true. It makes us better, right? Especially if we know how to use it and we can internalize it and not get emotional or get emotional and then box breathe probably for a few sets.
Exactly.
And then say, okay, what's the truth in this and how do I apply it? Jack Jample says, seek and raise your hand to do tasks outside your area of expertise.
Yes, love that.
I like that too, Jack. How is this something you've done in your career, Krista?
I have, yes. So I think, what I'm doing now is trying to get involved in some of our employee resource groups and some of the different initiatives that are happening. And so by doing that, what's worked well for me is I've had a little bit more exposure to different people within the business, different business units. We have a program that several employees just went through called Culture Ambassadors. So we're really diving into accountability and different cultural elements. And so it's been great to interact with different stakeholders and really get to know people within the company that are not part of the people team, because a lot of the work that I do is on the people team and with those internal stakeholders. So getting that chance to branch out, I also learned a lot. It was an internal training, so there's a lot of work that we did around accountability and how we can kind of, let that ripple throughout the organization, where we're all holding ourselves and each other more accountable and taking proactive actions to move forward toward the goals that we're collectively setting. So that's been good. And then I like to get involved in like diversity and inclusion initiatives. So I've rose my hand to like be part of social culture projects and how we can add in more cultural training into the work that we do. So I think it's a great opportunity to expand your skill set. I know sometimes in the past I would hesitate because I don't know that, I can't volunteer, but you don't know it until you actually do it. So you kind of have to like get out of your comfort zone and be willing to try something new.
Yeah, and as we hear people talk about, struggling for relevance in their organization, and sometimes global mobility isn't always understood, and it's not everybody knows what we do, and how do we connect, how do we work interdepartmentally and cross-functionally with other departments to get a seat at the table and have influence, to be in the room when decisions and policies are being made. This is a really good tactic to do that. When you start to volunteer in other departments and other areas, now people know who you are. And then they're curious, well, what's global mobility? What's that? And then one day you may need to work on a project together, or you may need approval for something, or you may need an advocate, a champion in a different business unit for you. And that those types of little chits and favors and trust that you've built and all that social capital that you've built, it can be deployed in that moment. It's too often we wait until we need a favor to start trying to like curry favor with somebody. And it's like, you got to build up that trust over time by working together and getting outside of your lane. People say stay in your lane. Don't stay in your lane. At least that's me. I say don't stay in your lane. I'm a color outside the lines kind of guy. I don't know about you, Krista, but what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think that's how we build our skill set. That's how we build relationships, and it's how we come across additional opportunities. So if we're just staying in our lane, doing our work, we may do an excellent job. We may have perfect execution. We may be able to really deliver well, but we're not kind of growing and expanding and meeting other people and getting more diverse experiences. And I think there's diversity of thought, diversity of experience is how we improve and how we grow and how we can have a bigger impact. So I absolutely think that there are multiple opportunities that can come from kind of being willing to go outside your lane in respectful ways, of course, and finding those opportunities. So.
Yeah, totally. Krista, I want to go back and I want to ask you, kind of about your story, right? And how you got into mobility and everything, because I think, I think it's really cool. So I want to get into that. Real quick, I want to just honor some of the folks that are coming in here with comments here. Roger Moe says, no one can look out for you better than you can look out for yourself. Shout out to Dale Collins.
Yep.
All right, nice. Build networking tracks before the train is coming, not when it's on its way. Yes.
Yep.
Networking tracks.
Again, it's that same thing, that conscious pause of pausing to build those relationships. And sometimes you, again, have to be intentional about it, because sometimes you're like, I don't have the time to do this, but the time you invest now will help you down the road.
I was literally in an Uber and I'm talking to this person about what I do, and he started asking me for advice. And he's like, I used to go in these meetings and I was a contractor for the Navy, and the Navy, colonel that we reported to, or captain or whatever it was, would rip me in the meeting all the time. He's like, well, how would you handle that situation? And I said, well, you should have a meeting before the meeting, and you need to talk to this person, and you need to sync up, because they obviously don't respect you, or they wouldn't treat you like that. They obviously don't think your work quality is you're not delivering what they want. So there's a gap there that you need to solve for. And then this person's also probably feeling a little insecure in their own right? So but all that can be solved in the meeting before the meeting. And so just there's things like that.
I like that. I think, level setting expectations and getting alignment with stakeholders like that before you step into more of a public space, I think really helps everyone, because no one wants to be in a meeting where you're being reprimanded or someone else is being reprimanded, because it just makes for an uncomfortable environment for everyone.
For sure. All right. Talk to me a little bit, Krista, about how you got into this fabulous industry where you find yourself as the Global Mobility Professional of the Year now.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So it's funny because most people you talk to in mobility are like, oh, I just happened to get into mobility. Oh, I just like stumbled upon it. And my story is a little bit different. So when I was in at my college, I always wanted to do international business. I loved international. I loved to travel. And so where I went to school, it couldn't be your primary major. So you had to have a secondary. So I started with international business and kind of going into the business school, not really knowing what the primary was going to be. And then I took an HR class and I really liked that. And so I said, okay, we'll make HR the primary, international business as the secondary. So I kind of went through and graduated. So I think like, international business and HR is mobility, but that's not what it was called at the time. It wasn't really something that was widely known like it is today. And so it was like, I knew the direction I was going. I just didn't know what that actual end result would be. So when I graduated, I ended up working for a software company doing more like software installation. That was just the job I got. Did that for 2 years. And then I was like, why am I doing this? I want to do HR. I want to get into, international HR, which is more of what it was called at the time. So that's when I went to an engineering company and initially just started as an HR assistant on a project where we were mobilizing people to go to Iraq for oil infrastructure rebuild. And so I just got that firsthand experience of working on, getting people set up, getting medicals, going through the contracts and getting them ready to mobilize. And I did that for a while there working on the project in Houston. And then there was an opportunity after a period of time to then go on that project in Iraq. And so I did that. And so I got that firsthand experience. And so, from there, it just evolved. And there's been, it hasn't been a linear path. It hasn't been like HR assistant and, and moves in a straight path. I left that company for a period of a couple of years and was more of an HR office manager for a small directional drilling company. And then I came back to the company and I worked on projects in more of like an engineering coordination and HR role. And then I worked in HR operations. And then I finally got back into mobility. And since then, which that was in 2010, it's been pretty steady, just mobility since then. So I think I'm exactly where I was meant to be. Just didn't know at the time, what mobility was.
Why did you leave and then come back? Why'd you come back?
I came back because when I left, it was to go to a very small company. And the dynamic of working for a 10-person company was significantly different than working for a 25,000 employee company. And the economy was slow, that was 2008 to 10. And so there wasn't a lot of work to do. I didn't feel like I was growing and learning. I was doing a little bit more like HR administrative work and office manager work, which wasn't really aligned with my career goals. And so I really loved the team that I worked with at the engineering company. And there was an opportunity to join the project team that was working on another project with Iraq and with one of our customers. And so it was a unique opportunity to partner with people I'd partnered with in the past, but in a different capacity. So again, that helped expand my skill set because I was doing some of that interaction with the client, building policies, a little bit of procurement work. And so that just helped me understand a lot more of what the business actually did. Because one of the things I'll say with HR professionals is we don't always really understand what it's like for our employees on the ground, if you will. And so any chance that you have to work on a project, be on a project, partner, shadow people who are in the field, it really helps you to understand what it's actually like and what constraints they're under. Because it's one thing for us to say, oh, the customer needs this urgently. But when you're on a project and the customer's in the office sitting next to you, that is urgent and you have to do it right now. And so there's just a different dynamic you learn to understand.
What is your favorite part of working in this industry? I mean, you obviously love it. I mean, you've been in this business for quite a while now, cumulatively. What kind of keeps you going?
The people. It's 100% the people, and not just the people that I relocate. I mean, it's kind of like all the people in all the different aspects. And so, like to Sharon's comment, we've known each other for a long time. The supply chain, the vendors, all the relationships I've built outside of my company, that's been an amazing network. I've made lots of friends and lots of connections. And then I have connected with so many people that I've moved, and being a part of their journey to me is so rewarding because I know it's just a massive thing to move, whether that's domestically, internationally, temporarily, permanently. It's such a huge life event, and being able to support those individuals and their families through those processes, it just really makes me feel good. And so I love that. I love, being able to work with different stakeholders in the business as well is just really amazing because I'm not, siloed into my own little function. I really get to interact with a lot of people.
Yeah, I bet. Now, my favorite part of talking to people in this business is the stories, because we interact with people from around the world in different situations, different cultures, different, talk about expectations, right? And talk about norms and everything. Any crazy assignee stories or transferee stories that you got?
Yeah, there's probably a lot to share, but one that stands out is I had this individual who she had been with the company for a long time, and she was from Australia, but living in the Middle East and getting ready to relocate to the US. And so, you know, our common practice was to have a briefing call, introduction internally. I would meet with her, go through the process. And we talked a lot about kind of what her and her partner's needs were going to be when they got to the US. And she said, "Oh, I'm not picky. I don't have super high expectations. This will be
Oh,
simple."
those are always the ones you got to watch out for. I'm
Yeah,
not picky. I'm easy. Oh man, my
exactly.
mom says that, and like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't care where we go to dinner. It's like she'll
As long
nix
as
the
it's
first
not
five things. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, I had this expectation that this was, oh, great, everything's going to go really smoothly. And then she met with the household. I was the relocation management company. And so when she met with them, she kind of gave them her list of like requirements for a house, which was probably like 15, 20 things long. So that initially started this like, okay, no, she actually is really picky, very, very specific things about what she was looking for. So she came to Houston and they did the tour and they found different places and finally agreed. She found a place, really loved it, was settled on it, couldn't wait to moved in. And then within probably days, weeks, she was furious at the RMC company that helped her find this home because planes were flying over all the time. And it was near downtown Houston. So that's kind of in the flight path of Hobby Airport. And there's not really anywhere in Houston you can go where you're not under some kind of flight path because of the two airports. And she was just furious. And she said, I was really specific with my needs. I can't believe you put me in this place. And, it's hard to meet everyone's needs in every instance. And so, we went back and forth and finally we settled on an agreement that worked out for both parties. She was happy. And then come like 6 months later, I asked her, like, how are you doing? Are the planes still bothersome? Oh, they don't even bother me at all. And it was just, one of those things like, oh, here you go,
Wow.
all this headache, and you can see it doesn't even bother me.
Well, I mean, first of all, people that say that they're easy and they're not picky or whatever, I mean, it's like, listen, if you're gonna be picky, I mean, just say you're picky, just own it. Be like, yeah, I'm high maintenance. I have really high expectations. I'm very hard to please. I'm a tough customer, but when you take care of me, I'll be very happy, right? I'm kind of like that sometimes, right? But don't tell me you're not, and then be it, because that's the worst. Because then you're trying to like tell them hey, you're being a little difficult, and they're like, I'm not. So then you deal with like delusional people. But then to think now she's not even upset with the
Yeah,
planes.
there we
To
go.
me, that's like displaced stress. Like I'm stressed about relocating, and
Mhm.
now everything else in my life is a big deal, and I'm blaming these things for causing me stress when really it's my own internalized worry and angst. Because I mean, I literally just went through this. I just moved. I'm still
Yeah.
in the midst of a move. My wife is sending me, unpacking updates daily. All right, oh, I got this room done. I got these boxes, and so I just discovered the dump. Right. Okay, that's a big revelation for me.
Yep.
So I'm still going through this, and there's all this added stress in our relationship, and it's not about the conversation in the here and now. It's about the 6 feet of cardboard in the living room that we got to deal with, And so I'm discovering this now that and I don't know what to make. I don't know what my takeaway is from this experience, but there's got to be a way to counsel people through this process that acknowledges the stress and the fact that you're not actually upset with your realtor. You're not actually upset with your mover. You're just going through a lot of changes.
Yeah, and I think it's a great call out to the fact that, we're providing a lot of relocation services for a lot of different things, but are we also providing services to take care of the employee? Because that emotional, mental aspect of relocating is very difficult. And so you can make sure that everything goes well with their housing and their goods and their DSP services and whatever else they may receive. But at the end of the day, like, are they okay? And I know I'm starting to see some new providers that are coming out there that are looking a little bit more at like the emotional health of assignees and relocating individuals to say, are we checking in with them? Are they okay? How can we support them from a mental health aspect versus just all the logistics of the relocation? So it's a great point, and I think we often do that where we misplace the stress and the energy from one thing onto other things. And I did it last week. I was really stressed out about an automation I was trying to build, and the system has a bug and it's not working. And I did it like 15 times and it still didn't work. And I walked away and my kids were home from school and I was just really snappy with my son. And I apologized later because I'm like, I'm really just stressed out about work and I'm now taking that on you. So I'm sorry. Like, let's start over, And I think recognizing that, acknowledging when we're doing it, because we're human, we all do, we all make mistakes, and it's a real thing.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the same kind of point about the transfer. It's like to not acknowledge, hey, I was wrong. Like, I mean, that compounds the issue, right? And so, and you're right. And shout out to Michael Hughes is working, I think with Better Go, I think his company, right? He's working on this type of stuff, right? Yep. I just always question, practically speaking, is there a budget? Is there hard cost for this kind of soft impact kind of stuff, right? Are people willing to pay for employees' mental health?
I think it's starting to increase where we're recognizing the need to do it. I still think in many ways we're a ways away from it being more widely accepted. What I think, I think Michael Hughes and his company, I think what they're doing is amazing. I think if companies aren't open to that, I think there are internal resources a lot of the time that we can point employees to through our own benefits program that they can still utilize even if they're going through a relocation. So top one that most companies have is an employee assistance program. So how can we integrate that into our mobility process so that they know that they can reach out if they're having trouble, if it's a difficult and stressful time, and how can we support them and just let them know that these resources are there? Because a lot of times I think people, they know that there is an EAP, but they don't necessarily know what it can help you with, which there's a huge spectrum of services they can provide, but a lot of people don't even know. So integrating that into a planning call or a prep call or the process of however you relocate someone, making suggestions that they reach out, if they need support.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I've worked at companies with EAP. I've never called it before. I mean, it's kind of one of those things hanging in the break room that you see that you don't ever engage with because you're just like, is anybody even going to be on the end of this telephone line when I call this thing? But yeah, I think there's something to it, and I'm always reminded. And I've moved a lot. I've moved probably 15 times since college, or 14 times maybe since college. So I've moved a lot, and I'm always reminded, which means I've always forget how stressful it is. Even though we talk about it, death, divorce, moving, top three things. I mean, I could have a tattoo of these things, right? We said this so many times, right? But yet it becomes real to you when it's you and you do it, And then of course we're in it as professionals and we're even disassociating from that experience on some level. And so it's really hard, I feel like, to make the business case there for it. Is that ever going to change, and what would have to happen to change that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I hope it changes. I hope we start to recognize like how difficult this is and just bringing that element of humanity into it. And I think we all, as mobility professionals, recognize that it's there, recognize the need for it. But sometimes we have to remind our business stakeholders that at the end of the day, we are still working with people and their lives and their families. And this is difficult. And expecting someone to move across the world, leave on a Friday, start on a Monday, it's just not realistic. We need to be giving people time to settle because you want the best from your employees. You want them to perform, but you need to give them some time. It's just, I think it's obviously the business wants delivery. They want results. They want to go, but like reminding them that let's give this employee a pause so we can be well equipped to then jump in and get started.
You're so right too about that, because even if you have a professional move, like for me to do that move that I did just recently, and it was a local, but we got a full pack. I mean, I had a lot of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. To do that move, it probably would have taken me 2 or 3 weeks, honestly, to do it. I had full professionals, helping me with it. It's still taking a couple, probably 3-4 full days of me and my wife's time just to unpack, to settle in, to get our feet under us, And we had the best help you could have.
Yep.
And so I think even when you have a really robust policy and you take care of everything, you still have to give that time, that pause, to your point. I love the pause. I'm seeing the pause now, Krista. I'm seeing it. I was not a believer before. You have made me a pauser now, okay? Not a poser, a pauser.
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you, because we got a overrated, underrated coming up, so stay tuned, everybody. But I want to ask you, you've done a lot of things in mobility. You've worked at big companies. You worked at small companies. What's kind of the difference in working for a well-established, program that's been around versus like building something from scratch?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting dynamic because I was with a company who had a very long-standing traditional type of program. It was very project-based. It didn't lend itself to a lot of creativity because there was a lot of cost constraints. And so it's just very structured. This is how we do it. This is what we're able to offer. We're not able to be flexible and change things a lot. It also was a huge company. So when I left, I think we had 40,000 employees globally. I looked after the US, Canada, Latin America. So lots of visa and immigration cases. So the volume was intense. The work was around the clock. I had calls at 5 a.m., calls at 10 p.m. It was very 24/7. It was really constant. I kind of went into accounting for a while, and then now I'm in the tech industry, and it's been a lot different. Of course, first thing, size of the company is 1,200, so significantly smaller program, smaller volume. And just different states. So we're in more of a building phase of our program. So we have a program and policies in place, but we're now really trying to realign and get the right policies for the future program that we want to deliver. And so I'm having the opportunity to bring in some of that creativity and to bring in some new ideas and adapt our program to the changing ways of the industry, which I couldn't do before because it just kind of was how it was and needed to be that way for project-based work. But now we're able to look at it a little bit more from a different lens, creating flexibility, bringing in a little bit more of the DE&I, creating opportunities for employees in different ways than we used to. So that's been really nice. And what's been nice as well is it's not quite as around the clock. So I'm not having to get on calls super early or super late at night. And so my work-life balance has returned. And I'm also a lot more intentional about creating those boundaries of my personal time. And when I take vacation, I take vacation. I find a backup and I don't log on, and they know how to reach me if there's an emergency. But I've been a little bit more intentional about setting those boundaries because it's really helped me to feel a lot more centered and balanced in all areas of my life because, as a single parent with 2 kids, like it's chaotic. And so it's good to find that balance.
Awesome. All right. The moment you've all been waiting for. You ready to play a game, Krista?
Sure.
It's so dramatic. I'm so dramatic. My team always jokes about it. They're like, you're being dramatic. Yes, I am. I am dramatic. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Overrated, underrated. Do you know how to play the game, Krista?
Not completely.
Yeah, it seems straightforward. It's not.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a topic. You're going to choose if it is either overrated or underrated. Those are your 2 options.
Okay.
Don't deviate.
All right.
I will tell you if you are right or wrong. All right. And those of you in the comments, get in the comments. I want to know what you think. The first one up. Are you ready, Krista?
Yes.
All right. Let's see how many points you can get here. Number 1, craft coffee, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Interesting. Why is that?
It's, if you go to a Starbucks versus a local coffee place, your experience and the coffee is so much different. I love local coffee. I love supporting local shops. And to me, there's like a tangible difference in taste.
What is the difference in the taste? Because, let's be honest here. 20 years ago, Starbucks was your craft coffee, your Sumatra blend, your Pike Place roast. Okay, why is everybody crapping on Starbucks now? It's just not good enough now. I got to go to La La Land or some other whatever I got to go to. What is the difference?
So all fairness, I still go to Starbucks, so I'm not completely averse to going to Starbucks. But
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know, just the quality of the beans and how they are roasted makes a big difference. And so I know a lot of people will say Starbucks tastes burnt, it tastes bitter, and it's because the quality of their beans from what I understand, is not quite as good. And so they kind of over roast them. And, there's a million different things, where the beans are sourced from, how they're roasted, different extraction methods. I mean, you can kind of like go really deep into this, but there is a definite quality difference when you're looking at some of the local roasters and the local, different brew techniques and things that they can do it like on a smaller scale, versus Starbucks is poised for like batch and tons of people and getting them in and out as quickly as possible. And so the quality can suffer when you're really just trying to like produce as many as you can.
Are you an undercover coffee aficionado?
I am. Yeah. Sharon knows. There's something called the caffeine crawl. And if you haven't heard of it, I have a very good friend who owns this company, and he does what's called a caffeine crawl in multiple cities throughout the year. And I think he's over 100 crawls now in the last 10 years. And so it's kind of like a pub crawl, but it's coffee. So you go to like 4 to 5 specialty coffee shops in the city in a period of 3 to 4 hours. And you don't drink a full coffee at every one. You do different tastes and you get samples, and they get to exhibit their craft. And so it's like a really cool, fun thing to do. If you ever hear of one, I highly recommend it.
Is this like a wine taste where you swirl it, you nose it, you admire it, they tell you about it, you sip it, you spit it into a bucket, and then you...
Not completely. No, I mean, there's different things that they make, but they'll usually give you, sometimes they'll give you an example of like a pour over, which is a more precise technique for making coffee. And so they'll do the pour over, they'll give you a sample to taste, and then maybe do just a drip coffee with the same bean, so they can you can taste the difference between the two. So it's just
what's the difference between a pour over and a drip?
So a drip is basically just like a regular coffee pot extraction, just goes through a filter. The pour over is like a special machine. You have the water at a certain temperature, and then the water is like poured over the coffee grinds in a special method and in special timing. And so it's slowly extracted versus just pushed through. And so I mean, there's a lot to it. I don't know how to do it myself, but it does result in a different flavor of coffee than just drip. So you should try it.
All right, I've never been invited. I would like to be invited to a caffeine crawl. Do I have to go to yoga to be invited to the coffee crawl?
No, you do not. 2 separate things, but I always encourage the yoga, whether you go to coffee crawls or not.
Okay. We've got some, you know what? You thought I was being difficult. We got some real rabble-rousers here. Roger's saying it's overrated, and he even went on to say Red Bull is better than coffee.
Gotta disagree with that.
Oh my gosh. All right, here's one for you. Espresso martini or Red Bull and vodka?
Espresso martini.
Espresso martini. I have a feeling you were being polite. It's not even close, is it? Look at that. Look at that. Now let me ask you a better question. What color is your espresso martini?
I haven't had one in a long time. So I like mine to be a little more creamy. If I have something that's cold with espresso, I like it to be a little sweeter. So
see, this is a hill I will die on, okay? You will find me dead atop espresso martini hill, okay? defending the honor of the dark espresso martini, okay? Yep. I do not like this bastardization of this martini with people adding Baileys to these things, okay? I cannot stand it. I can't stand it. I need a dark, and it's still sweet. It's a coffee liqueur. It's very sweet still, but that's the hill I'll die on. Okay. All right. This is great. Rob Zeitz is saying, I like the atmosphere at local coffee shops for hanging out and for meetings. Better vibes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't like their chairs. I find their chairs to be all very odd and wonky and not built for me, Rob. I'll be honest with you. But sometimes I have a cushy, overstuffed sofa that I can just fall into. And anyway, you know what? Fine. You've made your point for craft coffee. You've won me over. No, listen, Robin's saying they're good either way, dark or creamy. I don't know, Robin. Come on. You got to stand for something. You don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, Robin. Okay? Love you, Robin. All right, you got 1 point here, Krista. You're killing it. 1 for 1. All right, let's see here. The next one up is pumpkin spice. Ooh, 'tis the season.
So I probably used to say underrated. Now I go with overrated because one, they are bringing pumpkin spice out in August now, which I think is ridiculous. And it's everything. That's a pumpkin spice chapstick once, which I think is just ridiculous. Pumpkin spice latte is one thing, but when it like infiltrates everything, I think that's way overrated.
Yeah, and also like we got to question the execution on a pumpkin spice chapstick.
Yeah.
It's like pumpkin spice. Pumpkin, if done wrong, can just be cloying, sweet, off. If executed, I'm like a pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
Like you give me 10 pumpkin beers, I'm gonna like 2 of them, probably. So I feel you. Pumpkin spice. Let me ask you this, and now we might be going back into Starbucks world, but pumpkin spice or peppermint mocha, we'll say. Pumpkin spice or peppermint mocha, which is better?
I think peppermint mocha, even though I love pumpkin spice, but I really like the peppermint.
For Christmas and for the holiday season, oh man, nothing stuffs my stocking like a peppermint mocha latte. I'll tell you what. Yeah, this is overrated now. I think there's a groundswell of public opinion around this one. Christelle says 100% agree again. Very nice. Rob saying, look at this. What is happening? I love it. I love when people get in the people saying peppermint mocha.
Yep.
It's so funny. We can talk about relocation all day long. Nobody cares. We start talking about coffee. They're like, yeah, that, It's so funny. That's why I did love in Relo. I'm like, nobody wants to just talk Relo all the time. Jillian, my favorite espresso martini is the next one. Oh my gosh, this is fabulous. People are loving espresso martinis. Peppermint mocha. Yes. All right, let's go. All right, you're 2 for 2 here. 2 for 2. You ready? Hey, this one goes out to Rob Zeitz. Next one up, dad jokes, overrated or underrated?
Totally underrated. I love dad jokes.
As a dad,
Rob throws them into all this kind of things.
As a dad, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the delegation.
Yes.
Okay. Appreciate the respect, the honor. Tell us why.
I love the effect that it has on my kids and other kids. It's like I love to tell them a joke, and I really try to do it with a straight face. And they're like, okay, what's coming? Like you can just tell they're waiting for it. And it's either the, oh my gosh, mom, that was so lame, or like the face palm, but I just love it. They just, and every once in a while they're like, oh, that was a good one, mom.
At what point in a child's life do we decide that our joy is directly disproportionate to their agony? Directly proportionate. Like the more you hate this, the more I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. I don't know. Mine are 11 and 15. And I think like once they get past that 10-year-old where they can start to like comprehend the jokes, I think that's where it starts to flip, because then they actually get it, and it's more funny for us.
And that's where they probably start talking smack, and like anything we like, they automatically dislike. Yes. I was talking to Daisy in our office, right? We're talking about, in Dallas, we have the arena where the Mavericks play. It's called the AAC, the American Airlines Center. Daisy's like, yeah, we're going to go to the AAC. She talks to her kids. The kid's like, what are you talking about, Mom? It's the American Airlines Center. And she's like, no, it's the AAC. And like, no, it's the American Airlines Center. And Daisy's like, you guys abbreviate everything. Your generation abbreviates everything, LMAO. What are you talking about, And I agree. Yes, dad jokes are so underrated, okay? And you know what else? I was thinking about this the other day. If somebody's telling you dad jokes, that means they really feel close to you, because they're having these stupid comments in their head and they're just saying them. How comfortable do I feel around you? I'm just going to tell you the dumbest thing that comes to my mind first. And I love you like a parent would.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Roger Moe's telling dad jokes here, and he's saying underrated. Yeah, totally underrated. 1,000%. You know what? 1,000%. My team gets tired of all my jokes, and it really is just it's puns. Really, I think a lot of dad jokes are. Do you have a favorite dad joke, Krista?
So I was trying to think of one because I had a feeling you might ask. So the one I told my kids this week, in honor of my son who's 11 playing football for the first time, I asked him, why can't football players wear glasses on the field?
Why can't football players wear glasses on the field?
Because it's a contact sport. Of course, I guess, Mom.
This is great. Do your kids wear glasses?
No, they don't.
They wear contacts. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, that's really good. That's classic. I like that. That's actually, oh man, that's great. All right, 3 for 3. Chris is killing it out here. She's on the heater. Let's see. Let's keep it going. Multiple streaming platforms, overrated or underrated?
Overrated. I'm so tired of having to have 15 different things to watch one show, and my kids right now wanting to watch football are trying to convince me to get one of the NFL things, and I just am resisting. So
you're on thin ice, Caldwell. What's the one platform? You only get one. What's it going to be?
Probably Netflix.
What kind of life is that? You can't watch any football. You can't watch any sports.
I don't want to watch the football.
You can't watch any the debates. You can't watch the
YouTube TV. I think probably has the most from what they're telling me.
Yeah, no, I just got YouTube TV and I absolutely love it. And now I find myself watching TV on my phone, which I don't know if that's an advancement or not. But I've actually officially cut the cord now since I've moved, and I've gone all smart TVs throughout my home, and I got YouTube TV, and I can vouch. I really love it. But I still have my Amazon subscription, my Netflix subscription. I think we're on my sister-in-law's Hulu. We're jacking the Hulu. We got the Peacock rocking over here. We got the Paramount. We got the Disney ESPN bundle because now I can order the US. Golly, I'm getting up there, and I'm probably missing one still. So you can't get. How many are you on, Krista?
I probably have 4 or 5, but I think we have more installed on our TV because the sharing and oh Dad, we need that on our TV, so they get his login. So
yeah. Confirmed, Jillian. Confirmed. I concur. Laughter is a form of acceptance. There we go. Now we're having fun. Rob says, what football position tells the most dad jokes? The punter. The punter. Thanks, Rob. Rob is the king of dad jokes on this show. All right, last one up. I don't know. I don't like paying for all of them, but I can't. I don't know. Oh yeah, Max. Sorry, that was 7. Yeah. Like, what do you do? You can't. Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah, it's hard. You don't really have a choice now if you want to see all the different things.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I mean, I don't know. If somebody showed me how much I was paying in the aggregate, I'd probably be get off my lawn. I'd probably be like all upset. But I don't know. I don't know, Krista. Yeah. All right. I don't know. All right. I'll give it to you. I was on the edge. Tie goes to the runner. 4 for 4. Overrated, underrated. Yogurt spelled with an H.
I think underrated if you're talking about frozen yogurt. We love our frozen yogurt. We go to the self-serve place, which my kids fill up as much as they can, which is why I take them on the day. It's like $6 a day, so they can get as much as they want. It's still $6.
Oh, it's like an all-you-can-eat. They get the popcorn tub and they just fill it up.
Once a month, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. What's their favorite topping?
One likes the Nerds candy. Yep. And then the other one, like those peach ring gummy candies. The challenge with putting gummy on frozen yogurt is they get really hard.
It gets cold. It's hard.
Yeah.
You almost got to take it on the side and just pop them.
Yep. Yeah,
and then they don't poop for 3 days, but whatever. Yogurt. Let me ask you this. I got to ask you this. Why do people spell yogurt with an H?
I don't know.
Yogurt, is it like, I don't know. You know what? I think yogurt with an H is overrated. Yeah. Okay. I just don't understand it. I was literally typing it in. I'm like, yogurt without an H, yogurt with an H. I typed it with an H. I went with the H. They said, this computer is programmed for English. Do you want to be using another language? And I was like, no, keep the English. I just want to go with the H for now. And so here we are. But I don't know. I think it's overrated. My wife takes my kids for frozen yogurt, and to me, all day, I will take Andy's custard.
Oh, 100% agree with you there.
100% over Froyo.
We have an Andy's, and that we go there. We find an excuse for any special occasion to go there. Like, oh, school started. Oh, school ended. Oh, I got an A. Oh, I got a flu shot.
Yeah.
The excuse. We love it.
Still my beating heart. They're opening an Andy's next door to my new house. Oh. I drove by there and I screamed out the window, when are you opening? And he's like, September 25th. Yes. I'm like, I'm counting the days. Literally, no. I've, yeah, if you don't know what Andy's is out there, you guys, do yourselves a big time favor. Go check it out. What is your order at Andy's Frozen Custard?
I get a custom sundae with hot fudge and raspberries. Raspberries is my absolute favorite
Actual
berry.
berries?
Actual berries, but they're kind of like immersed in sugar, so they get really juicy and like it's
Macerated?
yes.
Oh, fabulous. Fantastic. I've never had the raspberries there. I like the pecans. I like the hot fudge, to your point. I like the pecans. I don't normally like a hot fudge on ice cream. I don't normally like a caramel on ice cream, but there, the hot fudge, the caramel maybe, and then the pecans are just
Yes. I will say in the fall, which is approaching, I will definitely go for a pumpkin concrete where they take an actual piece of pumpkin pie and blend it with the ice cream. It's like a once a season kind of thing because it's probably like 5,000 calories, but it is so worth it.
I love pumpkin pie.
You too.
It's such an underrated pie. It's a humble pumpkin pie. But man, I've never had that. And you blend it in with the crust and everything.
With the crust and everything, it is the best.
Lord
They've got
Jesus.
to do apple pie, key lime pie, peach pie, but pumpkin is absolutely the best.
Oh,
So you have to try it.
bless you. Thank you so much for that. Honestly, box breathing go out the window. That is the best part of this whole conversation. Those of you who waited 71 minutes to find that out, you're happy you did. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Krista Caldwell, Global Mobility Professional of the Year 2024. What a blessing this has been. Krista, you want to leave us with a final thought before we sign off?
Yeah, thank you. I just appreciate you having me here. And I think, the biggest reminder here is to remind everyone to pause as you approach this busy season of the year where we're diving into all these things personal and all these things work. Just take that time for yourself because you won't regret it.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Tomorrow, we got Aaron Allman in studio here in Dallas. Thursday, we are doing our big annual fundraiser for Move for Hunger. Our goal is to raise $50,000, 30. We're going for 35. $35,000 this year. Our high has been 50. Anyway, so make sure you tune in for that on Thursday. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Shout out to Roger and Sharon and Robin and Jill and everybody that's getting in the comments out there. I appreciate all of you. We wouldn't have a show without you. See you tomorrow, same time. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Krista. I appreciate you being here. This has been awesome.